At the beginning of 2020, I was currently full-time employed with Comcast, the Central Division here in Atlanta, Georgia. And my role there was kind of a mixed bag, but primarily I was responsible for all IT architecture teams. I had an IT architectural team that worked for me across the division. And I had just recently moved out of the role of IT security and compliance manager. And I had a team, that worked with me both nationally and throughout the division. And it was more or less where I kind of had my foot in each role because the company had a need. We had some transitioning happening, and they basically needed a leader for those two teams more than they needed a knowledge subject matter expert. But I ended up being the candidate they chose for both of those, and managed both teams, and then hired a new manager for the team I left, and transitioned them into a new game plan with the new manager. So was responsible for the transition of two teams at once, to a new leader and basically exiting as a leader from another team. So it's a big challenge for me.
So big challenge. So then that's how 2020 kind of started.
That's correct.
Now walk us through this party that's been 2020. What was the part of it that started to turn for you? And tell us a little about that.
The turning point, I can actually put a date to it, would be February 12th, 2020. When my architectural team that I had built, put together, and kind of managed and fostered into something viable, was let go from the company because they just weren't a part of the new direction we were going in, and the team I had left.
So the whole team,
all six of us.
Okay.
And the IT security team that I had left and hired a manager for was still there, and it is still there because it was more. They believed they could take on the role. So the thing about that is that it can be devastating. And it was devastating a little bit, but I'm a very practically minded person. I was a highly focused technology person, a lot of more of a tactical than a strategic role. And I realized I'd been in my career for about 27 years. I'd been very tactical in everything I do, not very strategic. And so really for me, the eye-opening experience was maybe this was a kick in the butt to the right direction and to where your mind actually works, the way that you think. You're a big picture guy. You see all these things at 10,000 feet and can stand at 0 feet and be effective as well. But maybe 10,000 feet is where you need to live from now on. So that's my transformation, is more from a tactical to a strategic person. So I started looking in that workspace when I started looking for a new job.
So I want to go back. I don't mean to bring up too many painful memories, but it's February 12th. This thing has happened.
Yes.
For most of the folks I work with, most of us, and even for me personally, when you have something devastating or traumatic that happens to you, right, it takes some time to have some of those light bulbs go off. It's not just like, oh, well, now all of a sudden I'm going to, do things differently. Tell us a little about that. How long did it take you? And did you do anything special that had that, all of a sudden that realization happen where you said, I kind of like the 10,000 foot stuff. Maybe I should do that.
The thing of it took a few weeks actually after you interviewing. I mean, I took a breath, caught my breath, took some time off, took about a week off. But I will tell you that that's not an epiphany that I went looking for. It kind of happened to me. It's actually the result of other people I started coming into contact with, interviewing with, talking to, recruiters. I went out and did a couple of networking events here in the Atlanta area, job fairs, career fairs, stuff like that. And in talking to people, I realized when I would get feedback from them, the things that they would point out that really stood out to them were not skills or characteristics that I had really spent a lot of time focusing on and working on. And they, through those conversations, I started to realize maybe I should listen to what other people think of me as a person, look at those skills and maybe start capitalizing on them and change my job search and my career path a little bit. And that's exactly what I did. I went home that night. I went to a job fair here in Alpharetta, Georgia, and I went home that night with a completely different outlook on what I was trying to do and what I wanted. And I changed my entire job search strategy. And believe it or not, I started getting hits on those things because I was moving outside my comfort zone, working on those traits that I didn't think were as important. But apparently people were looking for those things.
So I think it's a really good takeaway for us and everyone listening. You didn't just sit in your house and kind of, contemplate your navel. You were out there meeting people, talking to folks, and then really listening to what they played back to you.
Yep. Yeah, it was very it was very tribal in nature. I listened to what other people had to say instead of being my own tribe. I forced myself to go do something. I'm not a job fair person. I'm not a networking person. I don't like to go out and do those types of things. I went to those events because I wanted to kind of get my feelers out there for what was going on. And, you know, for the most part, I can't say that every interaction was valuable, but there were a couple that stood out, and that's what happened is that, you know, one of those things like, you know, and I could lay out a list of traits, you know, that I kind of, you know, focused on, but it really goes back to the bigger thing of tactical versus strategic. And I became very strategically minded when I started going home and doing job searches and talking to people and having conversations and even interviews after that.